Does anybody know which is the green city of tomorrow in East Africa? Yeah. Which one is labeled the green city of tomorrow in East Africa? Yep. Okay, that's Uganda, Kampala. Okay, it's branded the green city of tomorrow. Okay, another question. So that one nobody got, I got it. What's a green city in the sun? Very good. Nairobi, you got that one. You got 2 credits for your next course. Okay? What is the third greenest destination in the world? The third greenest destination in the world. Kigali. Rwanda. Rwanda is the third greenest destination in the world. Now, I'm talking about this green, because everybody talked about green today. And Judy is a perfect, branding person, What's the fastest growing metropolitan or urban center in Africa? The fastest. Nairobi is not in the top 3. It's Dar es Salaam. And did you know Dar es Salaam is bigger in population than Nairobi? I think Kenyans will live in denial, but it is. Okay? So those are some things I'm talking about, the case for sustainable cities or green cities in East Africa. But I'm going to twist it. Sitati has just left, and Felix, they just left. And they talked before me, and it's like they're packaging things. Now, Sitati is in the bushes. I'm going to bring you to the city, because in 2030, the population of developing countries the majority of population is going to be where? In the city. Can you guess which country has the largest urban population in East Africa? Which country? In East Africa. Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, you might not know. Which country has the largest urban population in East Africa? Tanzania, 36%. Followed by Uganda, 29%, followed by Kenya, 26%, followed by Rwanda, 18%, and then Burundi, 12%. Now imagine in about 20 years, that population is going to boom all the way to over 50%. So my case, as we talk about tourism, we need to start thinking about our cities, and that's where I start my case. My research is based mainly on urban cities. Now, when you talk about sustainability and environment, these are the issues we talk about. When you hear about sustainability, and most of the themes today, but you deviated a little bit, and I like the way you took us to think about sustainability in terms of poverty, in terms of food. It's not always about the environment. It's not always about economics. It's not always about all those things we are hanging ourselves on. Now, I'm bringing the conversation to talk about, and this is a question. Now, the previous cities, they were talking about the environment a lot, because sustainable development started in IUCN started before the United Nations, but United Nations kind of brought it to everybody about sustainable development. Now, what should we ask for cities, modern cities, 21st century cities? What should we ask for? That's a question. Now, this is what we have been hearing all the time. One side we have sustainability or urban sustainability or sustainable development, economics, equity, environment, education, politics, and all that. That's old school. Okay, then when you talk about urban development, we're talking about pollution, waste management, transportation, housing. That's the old school, because everybody knows that, even if they don't do that. Everybody knows, finish your food if you put it in your plate. Finish it. Thank you, Judy, because we're talking about sustainability, and I wasn't watching your plate, but many people wasted food here. Lots of people. It's not going to happen if we don't start with yourself. So what should we demand for cities? Now, my conversation, I did my master's on environmental sustainability. Then I went to parks and recreation and tourism. So I wanted to flip, not just talk the old school. Now, this is my school. Somebody has said, there's a need for cities to realign themselves. Think about what should be demanded for cities to be sustainable. Now, we are not saying, let's forget that. That is part of it. And actually, my main picture bordered on the environment, health, and safety. But I bring that into what I call postmodernism. What should we think about as tourism people? Because, like I say, people know about the environment. People know they should not waste their food. People know they should not throw away paper. If you can recycle it, don't throw it away. All right? But I'm talking now about quality of life, making cities livable, making cities fun places, not hard places to live. Sometimes I love Nairobi. I've lived in Nairobi for some time. I love Nairobi. But sometimes when I'm coming here, like when I'm flying, I got here today in the morning around just a few minutes before 6. I'd been flying for over 25 hours. And there's something I'm looking forward to going home, but I know sometimes Nairobi is just harsh. It's brr, brr, everywhere. Brr. It's kind of a harsh place to live. For kids, it's a harsh place to live. Those who live in Buruburu, when we were growing up, Buruburu was a place to go. But now you go, you wonder like, is there a place for people to play? Is there an open space, a safe space? Can you call it a quality space for people to live? And that's where I'm bringing about this smart crop. It's not really smart crop, but it's preserving the open space. That's my message. I'm the next preacher after Judy. Okay? Now, I want to tell you this has emerged from some work I did in the US, a city called Chattanooga. Now, Chattanooga is a city, it grew to be the 9th largest industrial city in the US. Now, those who have been to the US, big cities, industries, and all that, to be the 9th largest industrial city, that's a big deal. And it's a very small city, but it was big in manufacturing. And then they polluted everything. They have a big river, they have mountains, then they polluted everything. And the city died, literally. 1969, it was declared the dirtiest city in the US. But they started coming back. I'm going to show you a picture of Chattanooga today. That's it today, Chattanooga. And it has gone through a transformation in about 30 years, but the transformation was based on creating safe, open spaces. It was based on recreation. Now here we say tourism is for tourists so that they can bring money, but the open space there is preserved for people so that they can enjoy their city. And that's what I did my PhD research on. And that's what I'm talking about. One research I did in Burundi looking at their open space. Can you imagine Bujumbura, a large city, not very large like others here, has only one park where people can recreate. Only one. I think that's a tragedy. That's a travesty, according to me. If over 46% of the population in Burundi is below 15 years old, over 46%. Now, if their language is expressed, or the best way to express themselves is through play and recreation, then it means there's something that is lacking in Burundi. If people are still fighting, then they are somewhere. If the kids are not playing, they're somewhere, playing with guns maybe. And that's what my study was based on that. So that is Chattanooga. Now, there's a picture there coming. How the city grew, then it was refocused on recreation, building open spaces where people can recreate, where people can enjoy life. 82% of the population in America stays in the city. Now here we say it is about 26%. So that's a big change, but our population is moving to the city. So are we ready to absorb those many people? Nairobi, we have about, every moment we have about close to 10 million people here. Okay, not everybody resides here because we know we are rural urban. Some people stay here when it gets too hot, they fly away, So we don't know exactly how many Nairobians live in Nairobi. But Chattanooga was a small city and they refocused on recreation to rebuild their city. Now, we come to the local context. That's what I was talking about. The sustainable city of tomorrow, Kampala. So last year, I was hired by East Africa Tourism Platform to look at tourism competitiveness. And I traveled to all the cities in East Africa, looking at different things. And while I was doing that, I looked at the cities and how they do their stuff and what are people doing, the motorbikes in Kampala. Kampala is a harsh city. It's just harsh. And that's what provoked me to look at these things. Nairobi is harsh. It's a beautiful city. I love Nairobi, but it's harsh. Is it livable? Is it friendly? Is it playable? Uhuru Park, a place where we used to play when we were kids. Now people don't want to go there. Can we make it preserve that open space? The green city in the sun. Look at all those green words, marketing words. The world greenest destination. Rwanda, which is including Kigali. How many people have been to Kigali? Beautiful city. I love it. Manicured, everything. So manicured. They cut it with, scissors. It's so beautiful. You just need to go there. But beyond that, they have a park, and you never find anybody in the park. Okay? So in my opinion, it's high time we start valuing the resources in the city and open spaces and preserving them for the people to recreate. To me, that's a message of sustainability. And that's how I'm flipping that case of sustainability, making places livable, making places friendly, making places where people want to live and raise their families. We have Bujumbura. I don't have a very good picture of Bujumbura, but I've been there. It's a beautiful city, next to the second deepest lake in the world. But when you go there, you feel a little depressed because people don't take advantage of that. Only one public park with a population that big of people 15 years and below, over 46%. I think some of us cannot wrap ourselves around that. That's a lot of young kids. The other place I saw something like that was a little bit of Malawi. Very, very, very young population. But then if you don't give people spaces to play or spaces for families to connect, then you're not building a sustainable future. You're not building a sustainable city. You're not building a sustainable society. Then Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam, of course, is a slow city. We love it. Africa, like I said, is the fastest growing city, metropolitan area in Africa. So my research is around those cities, how we can repackage our cities for play, how we can repackage our cities for recreation. My name is Bernard Kitheka. I'm an assistant professor of ecotourism at Missouri State University, and I'm interested in issues of tourism and environment and how they intersect for the better of society. But more particularly, I'm interested in urban change and how we create spaces for play, spaces where people can live, spaces where people are happy, spaces where people are healthy for quality of life of the society, holistic society. And I came to this summit invited by Judy to talk about sustainability in East Africa, and I've enjoyed interacting with everybody. I've learned a lot. People are starting that conversation. There's a lot of fire, there's a lot of engagement, there's a lot of passion about sustainability, and I think that's what we need moving forward as a nation, moving forward as a city. Nairobi is a central city, is a pivotal city in the East African region, and I think we need to keep that fire burning about sustainability, about spaces where we want to live and play and work and raise families. It's very good you're asking that question, because one of the main themes I run with is play. And when you play, you only play with people. When you play with people, you lay your guard down. When you play with people, you lose yourself. You want to connect with them. You want to break barriers. So play is part of democracy. Play is part of peace. Play is part of social integration. Play is part of social inclusion, where people who are different from you, you come together just for play, just to be goofy, just to do things together. And I think when we do that, we build generations that break barriers, generations that don't see the differences, that we magnify ourselves due to our politics and all that. And I think that's a future for Kenya. That's a future for many societies that are struggling to integrate socially, economically, and in many ways. For me, I think it's a willingness of people to engage sustainability in different levels other than environment, economy, because everybody knows that kind of definition. But how can we push it to include quality of life? Quality of life in sense of where you're living, you're happy. Instead of talking about GDP, gross domestic product, why can't we talk about gross domestic happiness or happiness index? We measure progress in other terms, not just economics. And so I think this society and this summit, I think it's a beginning process for our society in Kenya to bring that conversations in East Africa, what's going on in the developed countries, we can bring them back here. Documentation is evidence. Documentation is validation of work. Documentation is celebration of what has been happening. People like Judy, who has been working on this for a long time, and I've known her for many years. I think we need to celebrate that work, and we need to reach further. Documentation is also advocacy. It's also outreach, and we need to tell more people what is happening here. That people know about these terms. People are doing something. Many people got awards here. They're doing something, and I think we need to celebrate and recognize that. So it's a celebration.